right. Welcome to Tuesday Night Torg. I am JM, and with me tonight is Brother Block Malachi, the man himself. Ristar, you know him on the channel and on the Discord. And Ben, thanks for joining me tonight. So tonight is going to be, we've titled this a special interlude, and you may notice that instead of my normal smiling face, there is that of Gregor of the Oh Boy. Um, Sadly, my face is currently being looks a lot like Malachi's dog Dogathy due to some righteous poison ivy. So tonight we're taking a break from Torg because I am not up to running a game, but I still wanted to make sure that we had our Torg's Day night because Torg's Day night is sacrosanct. And so what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to do this with each of the players in the Torg game as we have little interludes where I'm going to just run an interview with them. We're going to talk about their role-playing experience. We're going to talk about their experience with Torg, and I figured I would start with Ben as he has the most Torg experience. So, Ben, welcome to the Iconic channel.
Oh, I adore the Iconic channel. I probably belong to two Patreons, one of which is Iconic, and you
Awesome.
should do the same. I met you through Torg, and I love being here. And
So did you
everyone
just
had a
discover
try.
us? I've never actually asked you this. Like, how did you find out about the stream?
Before the Faites Five transitioned to the Iconic stream channel, for years, what would you say? 3 years?
Yeah, it was
Three years?
2.5 years. I think was our Torg game on the
Two and a
Ulysses
half
channel. Yeah.
years. You led Storm Knights through the Torg universe, and it was an easy, quick link. I didn't go back and watch all of the Infinity Stone. Wait, Infinity Stone.
Eternity shards.
Eternity Shards.
Legally
Didn't go.
distinct from the Infinity
No,
Stone.
completely. Yeah, no, totally different and not in any way related. Because there's no gauntlet yet. But I when I was a loose fan, and then when the pandemic really hit, and it was like, well, guess what, buddy, you staying home. I was like, oh, I can watch this, and I think I managed to catch the first night of the Horsemen,
Awesome.
where you were like, these are my four horsemen. We're gonna play Torg. It's continuing a thing that's already on YouTube. If you want to go back and watch it, you can. And within a, I watched several episodes, but I will tell you this is that the episode in Philadelphia where a Triceratops attacks, someone like easily defeated it. And I in the chat was like, I will donate a possibility to JM to keep the Triceratops alive because when a Triceratops shows up, you don't want it to go away like that.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. Like just keep it around for another minute. And I'm pretty sure that you were like, Ristar 9-6 has given me a power to blah, 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 blah. And no one argued. Like no one
no one argued at all. Yeah.
Like you had four players and none of them were like, well, screw that dummy. But everyone just accepted like Triceratops didn't die and we got to keep it going. And I literally like turned to my wife, who's just as old as me, and was like, "But said my name on the Twitch." Oh, not my real name. He said Ristar the 96, whatever. But it was really like I was hooked. I was just super hooked from there on out because I already loved Torg for reasons we'll talk about forever. But I became an Iconic Productions fan that night because you and JD and Evan and Lily and just everyone else I've ever met has just been the most kind people uh, in the world. And even though I've never met you in
No,
person.
I mean, you're from Chicago, so I mean, that automatically we bonded
Yeah, but
there.
you're from Chicago too. But we've never met. We've never
Hmm.
met in person. It's just all internet. And I feel like the internet gives you the opportunity to not be your best.
Yes.
And everyone I have met through Iconic has just been their best. No one has ever, yeah, they've just been their best.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. I actually had a discussion with somebody who said that if I were to, uh, no, we won't even get into that. My whole point is that we're always going to try and conduct ourselves to the as if everyone were sitting in the same room with us, and it's kind of hard to be a tool to somebody if you're sitting across from them. So we just naturally that's the way we go.
Well, I think we can. Obviously, tonight is very Torg centric. We can talk about how different issues come across different RPGs. I think one of the things with Torg is it's difficult. There's three things to balance. One is it is very specific. We've discussed this before. If you if you own a law rocket and you want to know what a law rocket would do to a brontosaurus,
You can do that in Torg.
that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's Torg. Also, if you want to recreate your favorite movie, you want to be like even a side character or a main character. For me, we'll bring up it later, but Land of the Lost. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to find not the Slee Stacks, but the hidden wonder
Yeah,
in
that's
Land of the Lost. You can do that. And then if you want to just roll dice and play with miniatures, you can do that. And if you want to be a card collector, if you love Magic and you want to just have more cards than the other guy, you can deck build. You can do that
yeah.
in Torg. The thing is that each of those people, um, all of those subsects that I just talked about, there's a song that says, "Don't cling too tightly."
Mm.
It's from the '70s. I can barely be like it. Like all of these things have to blend together. We have to enjoy all of the things that people want to do. And I fully feel that Iconic Productions does that, especially because they have such a long running history of doing other things.
Yeah. We've been
Like,
we've been doing the Iconic podcast for 6 seasons now. We did, Fading Suns for nearly 4 years. We did Torg for 2.5, 3 years. Like this is if you go way back in the Wayback Machine, you can even find a Dark Eye game that I ran uh, from my basement that we were streaming. But let's talk about Torg. It is Torg's Day night after all. Now you played OG Torg, like original Torg.
yes, yes.
Also,
So
in
can I
in oh, go
let
ahead.
me say, especially in a Venn diagram of everything that's cool, before Torg existed in the mid '80s, we I would like to say we played everything we could, but really this is what happened. People went to stores and they bought core source books. So you read the core source book of this, and the core
Mhm.
source book of this, and the core source book of this, and you knew all the rules. But it was difficult to get a bunch of friends to get together and commit to doing this on the reggae. So what we are really talking about is a bunch of people running around and buying books and making characters. For example, I made the greatest 30 plus immortal TSR D&D character. Did I ever play a day of D&D? No, I did not. No, no, no negatory. But like I bought the Immortals book, and it was like if you have a name, and if someone knows your name, they control you. And I had a secret name that I never told anybody because we were all into reading this sort of um what's it called in the library when you periodical,
Yeah.
these periodical books of
Arcane lore.
genius
Yeah.
that were just pumped out, and there wasn't an internet, and we were all young, and we had $5 at a time, and we owned all of these things, and maybe Greg owned this, and Steve owned this, and Aiden owned this, and Jason 1 owned this, and Jason 2 owned this, and Jason 3 owned this. But we all made characters and we did whatever. There was a day where in the books that we all shared, an ad came out and it said 1 year from now, the storm is coming. And the storm has a name, and it's called Torg. And everyone will be able to play. So get the character that you already have in your mind, get it ready because everyone will be able to play. And like just that concept hit our middle school lunchroom table pretty hard.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this guy likes this, and you like this, and you like this, and I don't like this. And the reason we don't spend every Saturday together is slightly that different. And the promise of Torg was really great at the time. It was because it felt like I'm going to export my kick ass whoever into this new game set, and I can play with all of the people that I already love, and I don't have to spend a Saturday walking my druid through a forest to craft something that we need to do. Let I didn't I actually didn't realize that at the time, but I do realize now like that's a Ben issue. Like Ben cannot uh long-term plan. So
as can be seen in the Faites Five. Um,
yeah, no, there will be no long-term planning. I'm a little bit like a dog that you can tell to wait, but if you don't tell it to wait,
it's going to do
ain't gonna
whatever.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
let me
yeah.
ask you about Torg Eternity. So you've played both, and as I've said before in the stream, my high school was very polarized. Right? You were either a Pumpkins fan or you were a Pearl Jam fan. They couldn't mix. You were either a Cubs fan or a Sox fan. You either played Riffs or you played Torg. Like that was the division. I was on the Riff side, and I had seen Torg books, but so, what is it about Torg Eternity, the newest iteration of Torg, that you like, that you would say this is the thing that makes it an even better version of the original Torg?
So I don't. This is gonna come off as being a fanboy, and maybe it was that they had 12, 15 years to think about it, but they fixed everything. So there were problems with Torg 1 because it didn't matter. You just went to the store and you bought what you bought. And now that we live in a crowdsourcing and computer gaming and VTT world, I just feel like they said, okay, we've listened to the complaints for 15, 20 years. And while we're not going to give everyone fan service, we're going to do our best to just fix this game and let you do whatever you want to do. And I think that's the true power of Torg. Rift also said you can do whatever you want to do, but the problem with Rifts and GURPS was that they put too much responsibility into the GM's hands.
Hmm.
And so a cruel GM made cruel Rifts and GURPS games. And an easy GM made easy Rifts and GURPS games. Torg Eternity has said, we got you. We got all these missions. We got all these rules. And it's not so codified that the players can just be like, oh no, a law rocket does this much damage to a Brontosaurus.
Right. And I think one of the things I like most about, so, and this gets into design, and this is just, I mean, if you watch behind the screen, this is sort of what I love chatting about, right? Sometimes it's very easy to say I can only do what's on my character sheet. And Torg, like, let's take the interaction skills. I love the fact that they're so broad, but they also are so effective in the game. The fact that you could literally play a pacifist in Torg. Zorba is nearly, I wouldn't call him a pacifist. He is an incompetent combatant, but very effective in combat with his taunts and his persuasion and his, Kowalski with his intimidate. I love that. And then you had the cards on there, and the cards really shift a lot to the players. A lot of the agency that we say we want in games, the players are able to express with the cards. Hey, Mr. Furious, good to see you.
B. Feehan,
Yeah.
my good buddy, who is Kowalski, I think on his first game as Reginald, talked down a mountain because his spirit was high enough on his character build, and some other things had happened that we were like, well, just give it, like, we probably can't solve this puzzle, but give it a roll, and if you come up high enough, we win, and if you don't, we nothing bad happens. Like, you're talking to a mountain. And I think he got an outstanding success of being like, dear mountain, get out of the way. And it was like, well,
Oh, that was when you guys were.
well,
That was in the B team game when you were trying to scale the scary nightmare mountain and were able to deal with that. Greg's got a good point. Zorba is a verbal duelist rather than a pacifist. But yes, like that's one of the benefits, and it's not. They're not so constrained that it's only in eighth. Think about other games that use similar things to perks or talents, right? Well, you can do this one really cool thing if all of these other things are in place. This is great. And yeah, Padre, even the fact that like players call, you can take out a ton of mooks with, right? There is something wonderful about the way Torg is designed. Again, with the Faites Five, we have all right, so Ben is our ringer. Ben Feehan has played the second most Torg, which is exactly like 4 sessions. and everyone else is brand new to Torg. And they always talk about how much fun the system is to play. Not just how much fun the story is, but how much fun they have with their character. Even when they fail, they failed at doing something cool. So, um,
It is an own your failures game. Um,
yes,
I would like to just quickly talk about, like, personally, my history with role playing games is that I'm old, and so I probably played like D&D 1 and whatever. And one of the issues was if the GM wants to kill you, you will die. And it's not his fault, and it's not your fault, and it's not the dice's fault. It's just like it was built this way, and whatever. And it kind of hurt to die. But Torg is built to be like, if you die, you get to do the one most glorious thing
yes. The
in
last,
the world.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And then next week, a new guy shows up with your XP.
Yes.
So you don't start over. You have to do a new build for sure. You have to figure that out. And then everyone is like, you're not Kenny.
Yeah.
No, I'm not Kenny. I'm the new guy. You gonna like everybody hates you because you're not Kenny.
Yeah. And
But it's
Mr.
it's how it fits into like the story of the game. And then we haven't even gotten into that there's a progression in Torg, a year 1, a year
Yep.
2, a year 3. But in year 2, it transitions from we're adventurers knocking it out to like we're people in a war saving who we can because it's overwhelming and we can't actually win.
Yeah. And Phantom's Truth brings up a good point. Yes, some of those early modules were designed to kill players, and I think there's some reaction. The fun anecdote about that is that Tomb of Horrors is sort of a response to the live playtesting of D&D when they put like deities and demigods stats out, and people would come up to the designers and be like, "Oh, I killed Thor, and now I'm walking around with Mjolnir," and he's like, "Yeah, that's not the way the game is supposed to go. Let me reset it to 0 with the Tomb of Horrors." So I'm like, maybe it was still early. We didn't know what was going on with gaming. It was like blind squirrels going through a warren trying to find,
Aren't
they
we? I mean, I guess I'm very old. I guess I feel like there's blame on both sides. A person who's like, "Yep, my level 6 got me on there," is lucky, and that's good. But like, are you really servicing the game that we're all playing? And is
yeah,
that possible? Like, you're that worthy? No, I wrote it down on day 2. I wrote down, I'm worthy.
yeah, I've got Mjolnir. It says it so right here. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the Fet Five. You named the Fet. No, did you name the Fet Five? Someone named the Fet Five. No,
I
hold on.
wait.
Let me go back.
What?
But I will say, Mr. Furious, I answered your question about the Torg, the Torg question you posted in our for the campaign clinic today, and it's like, how do you hope to have your Torg players stay on anything resembling a plot? So on today's behind the screen, I tried to give, I don't want to say advice, because as you've seen from the Horsemen, the B Team, Bureau G, and the Fet Five, I'm not great at it because the Torg players have so much that they're able to do, and it's fine. Like the Torg game does push it forward. Mr. Furious, or not Mr. Furious, Greg, I am with you. I'm very excited to see what you and the team does with year 2. I know there have been hints. There have been, especially in the core rulebook, there's this, at least to my mind, this idea that the Gaunt Man is better prepared this time around and has a 3-year plan. That does not bode well for our heroes. But I'm really looking forward to how this is all going to roll forward. So, Greg, if you have anything you can, tidbits you can drop in the chat, I'll be glad to share those with everyone.
Let me say quickly, JM, that if there are Torg people thinking about a Torg Eternity or watching our show, one of the biggest changes is Tharkold. When Torg happened, so here's the thing: is I couldn't afford to buy every book. That was crazy, especially because I wasn't a GM. It's tough. Torg is awesome, but the content is out of control. Now that PDFs exist, get on it. But if I am correct, Farcold came down in Los Angeles because the nuke worked the first time. And so Tharcold was supposed to drop on Invasion Day, but instead it got held back. And then Tharcold came down in Los Angeles, kind of disrupting the living land the way that the cyber papacy is currently disrupting the living land in both
Brazil.
Ottawa, Brazil, but also northern Canada,
Yeah.
or somewhere near Oregon, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. And I, unlike you, my new good friend, am not a body horror guy. Never was until I met you.
David Cronenberg,
Uh,
man. That's my jam.
yeah. Oh man, this guy, I don't know what the setup looks like, but you guys, JM did a show about trees that bleed and crazy harpies from above that will cut you if you try to get away from the trees that bleed. And I mean, it's still, I was 44 when it happened, and it still scared my pants off. So back in the day when Tharkold dropped and when other things, there were bits and pieces. The best thing about Torg is that you can do anything you want. Are there going to be bits and pieces that don't appeal to you? Yes. So, for example, I don't like wizards. I don't like dragons. D&D did not hold a lot of fun for me. Tharkold, I don't like peeling toes backwards. That's weird, man. I don't like tentacle love. It's weird to me, but I recognize that I want to be able to play a game with all of my friends, and also now somewhere between 42 and 46, I've become much more acceptable. Like I know, I know that JM's wheelhouse is body horror, and seeing people #Maddie miss you freak out is fun. I mean, it's not. I don't wish that on anyone, but like, if you sign up for the game and JM knows I have this proclivity, having a good GM is like, yeah, I toe the line of these things.
Yeah, I never
So,
want to like push past someone being uncomfortable. But the joke was always at the table. Maddie would get done. She's like, "Do you just need to run a game of Call of Cthulhu and get this out of your systems?" Like, I'm sorry. It sort of builds up and then kind of comes out.
yeah, okay. On the flip side, you let her use a boat CB radio to disable a helicopter. So I think scales get balanced,
Scales do get
especially in
balanced.
in Torg, like where it's like if you roll good enough, you can do this. So very very quickly, one of my first experiences with Torg, having read the book and finally playing the game, was like we're going into the living land and they were like, this mist shows up, and everyone else was like, gotta get out of the mist, man, we gotta run. And I was like, but the rules say, because I read the book, that if we dive into the mist, we might find a wonder. So like, if I was going to be in Land of the Lost, I don't care about the dinosaurs, those are dumb, I know all about them. I want to find the weird, crazy secondary realm that's already been destroyed, and now we get cloud cars. And of course, that's really not the way to play Torg, especially. Um, but I did like everyone was like, well, if Ben won't shut up, I guess we're going into the mist. And it was terrible, and we all died. And from that day forth, no one ever played Torg again.
Oh no.
And then, yeah, seriously, it was my fault. It was totally my fault. And then, like, I don't know, 25 years later, something occurred to me that was like, I really like the idea of an evil cyber pope. It just makes me, I just like it. And I Googled it, and it was like, oh, you're a year and a half late to the Kickstarter. And I was like, well, it's on now.
That's right. It's a
And so,
challenge.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so
And
hold
then
on. We've got a great chat going on in our discussion going on in the chat that like Orosh was too lethal in the original one. Now here's the thing. I've looked at some of the original books, and what I really like is the transition from the world laws to the Cosm cards. I feel like the Cosm cards really help reinforce the world laws in a much more dynamic and interesting way. But let's see here.
Hack and Slash was everything in 1990. It
Yeah.
was everything. So introducing a realm where if you just try to hack and slash it, you will get
You will
killed.
die.
Yeah, it can be a bummer. I get that. Like it's tough to take Rambo into Oroch.
Right.
It's hard, but it's about playing your character, and I think that's one of the things that the game is awesome at, but also at least back in the day, it didn't fully address is like it gives everyone the opportunity to do everything, but maybe there's a person who's like, oh, my power is poetry. It didn't really provide for that, and it should, because if you want your power to be poetry, great. As you said, Zorva is could be a pacifist. He's a terrible non-combatant. But if he was like, I will never ever, I won't. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You can play that in Torg, and in 1990, that mechanic did not exist.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Now you've had the opportunity, thanks to an NDA and the generosity of the Torg team, we got to play with some of the Pan Pacifica toys before it came out. And I know that Pan Pacifica is eminent. And there's, from my understanding, and the chat, Greg, Padre, Ben, you can all correct me on this. Pan Pacifica is one of the big Cosm changes, even from the original, like from the original Torg Eternity book, what was laid out to what we've seen coming up. So, right, we had originally, right, the hidden invasion. We had the weird
Same,
virus that was creating
same.
zombies and such. But now we're getting the virus is in what we're seeing is the virus has been cured. There's now more biogenetics. There's now more. There's more mechanized suits. There's more. It's leaning into a different type of. I don't want to say cyberpunk, but there's a little bit of cyberpunk there. Whereas the cyber papacy has a much more, I'm going to call it Shadowrun feel, with the high magic, the high faith, the demons, and the cybernetics that's tied in with the church. we're getting much more of a altered carbon, if you will. If one side's Shadowrun, this one's the bright and glitter. Almost let's put it this way: cyber papacy leans into to cyberpunk. Pan Pacifica's really leaning into transhumanism. Like it's
If
pre-transhuman humanism.
uh, so, as I said before, when the original Torg launched, what the feel was that if you already had a character in some other game, it could port over, and now it can play with this character or this character. And they have really fixed several things that I think either weren't in the American zeitgeist in 1990, but are now, or were just overlooked. So in 1990, Pan Pacifica was like Rising Sun with Sean Connery, where it's like super corporate, and it did have that Shadowrun feel. But one of the things that I feel like they missed that everyone already loved at that time was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role playing game, which would be like, okay, yeah, I don't want to be Raphael, but you know what I want to do? I want to be a
Raphael.
Hispanic teenager who's a cheetah.
Yeah.
You know, my brother's in a gang and I'm a cheat. Like so many, like the stories and the movies that you watch really affected the stories that you wanted to play and see. And the developers at the time they were like 10 or 15 years behind you. So, for example, Cyber Papacy felt like, oh man, I'm doing RoboCop. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like there were these things that really because that was part of the sell. Like these things that you want to do, you can do. For example, if you roll a 60, you can do almost anything. Which why I was like, all we got to do is walk into the mist and roll a 60, which I recognize now is a lot harder than it seems, and you'll die before that happens. But um, it really provides the opportunity for you to do those things. So Pan Pacifica this time around is really hitting us with things that are super cultural and awesome, but weren't around that time. So, for example, my character on Bureau G is basically a straight mix of Power Rangers. I would call him the Brown Ranger, which is awkward. I know. No one wants to be Mr. Brown. Oh, you want to trade with Mr. Pink? Okay, okay. And then
Hey, don't forget, Ben.
go.
Greg is in the chat. He's the original, the OG Torg developer.
uh, oh, yeah. Oh. I love me some Greg Gordon. I have run a campaign where Greg Gordon was the GM. He knows my character whose name is Rodeo, who was a rodeo clown at a rodeo when on Invasion Day, and he got transformed into a caveman in the Living Land, and now he has carapace armor because he killed multiple like giant insects and he turned it into like one of those rodeo barrels. So I'm naked from the shirt up. I got a rodeo barrel around my waist. And when danger comes, just duck in. And my my face looks exactly like the uh big angry clown from Akira. Oh, it's so good. And that wouldn't have happened without Greg Gordon.
That's right.
What I would what I would say to I love Greg Gordon. What I would say is that in the book it says don't get hung up on the rule. And everyone I've ever played with until you, JM, and Iconic Productions, who are the best, that's a struggle. That's a Venn diagram. Like, are we following the rules? Are we not following the rules? Are we having fun? Are we not having fun? It's tough, and you really need a good GM. Back in the day, if you played any of the games that we've talked about, Dungeons and Dragons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DC Heroes,
Another
uh,
Grant
and,
Gordon game, if I
so many
remember
games,
correctly.
so many games. Whoever made the map to the Danger Room, I want to know that dude. Um, the thing is that in the hands of a cruel GM, that's not a fun game. And back in the day, there weren't a lot of outlets for I'll own this for people like me who like I love comic books. And guess what? The most popular movie in the world for the past year has been a comic book. So that's been great for me. But in 1990, that wasn't the case. And so if I took the time to build a game and work it, which I never did because that sounds like a science fair project that I wasn't forced to do. Um, it, I that would be tough. I would probably be mean. So I understand that, like back in the day, role playing games aren't what they are now, especially because we don't have the video games that we have now. We don't have the board games that we
Yeah.
have now. We don't even have the mechanics that we have now. One of the mechanics of Torg that it makes me spend all my money is that it's also got a bit of that card collector aspect. In the, like I loved Magic back in the day, but once you start getting your butt kicked, you stop. uh, but every time a new Torg source book comes out, a new set of cards comes out, and it changes the game. And the cards are a very, very important part of the game.
Yes.
And what attracted it to me in one of the first places is the cards do mitigate that. Like if Brian, the GM, wants to kill Doug, the thief, he's got a chance to do that. But in Torg, because of the cards,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Doug the thief escapes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Maybe
Like
he gets
it rain.
captured. Right. That's what we were. That was before. Now I've got. Well, we're gonna dovetail into this next question here because let me say this and then we'll come back to the question part of it. But the fact that you guys had a way to save Kowalski, even if Ben failed a defeat test before the chat jumped on board and was like, "No, Kowalski can't die. Here are the possibilities I'm throwing out." Um, like I love the fact that I think we had two different Cosm cards at the table that ensured Kowalski was going to come back. Somebody had inevitable return, and somebody had captured. And so, even in a worst case scenario, the group was going to be fine. But let me ask this question because you've been on both sides of this. You have been on the possibility donation side, and you have been on the possibility receiving side. It's something that I think we do pretty uniquely at Iconic Production. I haven't seen that sort of chat interaction in a lot of different streams that I've watched. Uh, how have you enjoyed the possibility economy being extended out into the chat?
Well, answer one. We as players we often forget things. So I have bodyguard, and I also forgot that the shield drone automatically delivers 8 damage plus 1 BD to anyone who successfully hurts or touches its opponent. So when all of the people were piled on me, that would have been like like if we had managed it correctly, um, things would have happened differently. What happens with the game is um, we get okay. This is difficult. So What I like about iconic productions is I feel like the point is not necessarily playing the game. It's not Candyland. It's not Monopoly. It's not. Sometimes it's a little BattleTech, and sometimes it's a little Warhammer. But the thing is, it's not. We're being characters. It's why we put that time into the costumes. It's why I try to speak French poorly, um, because we are trying to be characters. That kind of drives what we do, even if I know that that's a bad idea. And Ben really backs that up. Like I said before, so my character is a dog who will sit if you tell him to sit. When Kit ran into the room where I was about to smash the big boss's glass floor, which by the way, like set out a target, the evil overlord has a glass floor and you're standing on top of it with a hammer. No, it's my fault. No. Most people wouldn't smash it. It's my fault. But when Kit says bad idea, I believe her because she's the mind skill. When Kowalski can make me do anything because we are bosom buddy. Like we're literally um I like to think that I'm Tom Hanks and he's Peter Scolari, but he'll argue. Um that's kind of the thing. I don't know how it is for other people, but I grew up watching these shows and these movies and thinking I want to do that. I want to do that silly thing and or this actiony thing. Like, do you remember the Captain America who drove on a terrible
Oh
motorcycle
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
had a shield that didn't come back? I still wanted to be that dude. I wanted to come out of the back of a van. Uh, between Knight Rider and Captain America,
That is all
I
we
gotta
wanted in gaming.
got it. Oh, and Spy Hunter. When
Spy
you pull
Hunter.
up into the back of the, okay. So my Mask. Remember Mask,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I need a semi. That's our headquarters, and every now and then I pull in and out of it.
Hey.
That sounds ridiculous, and it will never happen in my real life. But Torg actually provides the opportunity for that to happen. And now that I've said it, JM will turn it into a Pyrrhic victory. It'll be like, as all of your friends died, you pulled into the back of the semi, and as the gate pulled up, you sobbed quietly in your spy hunter car.
Yes, that's one way I could do it. There's another one. I have a ton of notes that I'm just taking on for the Tharkold villain you will be fighting.
Obviously, I'm gushing about iconic tonight. I just want to say that if, as I said before, like I've had, and it's my fault. It's not the GM's fault. It's not anyone's fault. But I've had bad experiences playing role playing games before, where it's like, nope, can't do that, or the rules say this, and da 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 da. And that has not been my experience at all with anyone in this community. And if anyone else out there feels the same way, then please join our Patreon. Go on the Discord. Let's all talk. And there is an opportunity for anyone to play, to really
Yeah,
play.
we're going to be bringing the B team back this summer. I'm hoping that we're going to get some more Bureau G in as well. At the very least, we have to continue our holiday tradition with Bureau G because the Bureau G Christmas special has to be a reoccurring event. Now,
Well, JM and I also have a secret agreement that this summer we are going to do the Torg Kids Show,
Yes, I'm
which
trying to make that happen.
will involve more puppets and more props than usual.
Well, at
And
least on your
also,
side.
probably less explosions on my end.
Yeah, I mean, so Padre said that he just ran a West End Games Star Wars adventure for his uh, nieces and nephews, and they use Savage Worlds, which is awesome. Like, I love Savage Worlds. It's got a lot of overlap in some game design features that I love with Torg. And just to use that as a segue, starting the first Monday in June, there will be now back-to-back shows Monday and Tuesday night on the Iconic Production stream channel. Tuesday night will be Torg's Day night, as always, but we're going to be running some Deadlands on Monday nights. We're going to be running an official Pinnacle game using Deadlands and playing through the horror at Headstone Hill. And I'm very excited for this and to be running this.
Oh, what are you going to call it? Mundeadlands?
Ooh, Mundeadlands is good.
Oh, give me a second.
No, you have till the end of the session.
I do want to shout out to all of our chat, specifically like what hooked me in the first place, and what makes being here every Tuesday so much fun is the chat and responding to people live. And I wish my phone was working so that people could yell at me. But I will say that multiple things have come from people discussing the game with us that are now canon. They just exist as so. Back in the Horseman game, there was the minute where they were going into a techno club, and
Edith and Genevieve, they glittered up.
Yeah,
and I believe it was it Josh? I think it was Josh.
It's Josh, but also there was a lead-in argument that was in Torg. As a monster hunter, you can have a monster skin coat, and it basically implies like werewolves or like a more of a fur kind of coat. And then someone was like, "Well, what if she killed a bunch of vampires?" And then someone else was like, "Well, it would probably sparkle, like it would be, it would be reflective, or burn in the light." There was a chat discussion, and but you remember, but as they were going in, Genevieve was like, "I'm going to disguise
Edith
by giving her
a glitter makeover."
Yeah, we're gonna and so they're going in, and that was the goal. Like, well, if it's a rave and we go in as like rave kids, then no one will notice us. And that's the game. Like that's what is happening. And then in the chat, we're having this discussion of like, could you break a glow stick and put it in your hair? Like, all of these things are just because it's it just rolls up as they go.
It is hard to stay on top of the chat as the GM of this game because I agree with everything that's scrolling up in front of me. The chat's pun skill is reality rated 100%, Greg. That is spectacular. All right, Ben, we got time for.
Okay. So then Josh Coggate does hashtag vampires don't sparkle, but we're about to.
Yes.
And that kicked, and that was our hashtag for a while. That was before I became a B team. I was in the B team, and we were talking about the things that we do and whatnot. And Mr. Furious, Greg, did hashtag hold my chalice of blood.
Yes.
And it literally is on, like, I don't know if I can get close enough.
It's on the shirt that you made.
Oh, man, no one had to know I made it. This could be
it's great.
Corporate. It's great. Yeah, it's on the shirt I made. It's on
Uh,
the shirt I made that has Dogathy and me, because that's how much fun it is.
oh yeah, and I love I think the first one that sort of stuck with this with the Fet Five is, are these skulls complementary? Like what a great aspirant line
Do you
in
know, online this weekend or this week he was like, I think I'm BA Baracus and you're Murdoch. And I was like, on the B team, I'm Murdoch.
that's right.
On the Faites Five, I'm BA. You're Murdoch, Mister. Are these skulls free?
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, we that as I said earlier, like, if you ever watched a thing and you were like, man, I would like to be that guy. Kowalski is basically Magnum. You
He's
know what I
totally
mean? Like,
Magnum PI. If Magnum was Hellboy, or Hellboy was Magnum, one of the two.
yeah, yeah. Fuse your, yeah. Like, oh, okay. So you know that restaurant that's called like Asian Fusion, and sure, it's buffalo chicken egg rolls,
Yeah.
but you love it.
Yeah,
That's what we do.
that is what we do. Well, let me ask
That's what
one
we do.
last final thing, Ben, before we wrap up. What? Yes, yes, Mr. Furious. He may also have uh, a traumatic brain injury that Kowalski is recovering from. Magnum PI times Hellboy plus uh, TBI equals Kowalski. If something horrible were to happen,
I
and
bet. Wait, quickly. I think that Kowalski might be like 4 years old. We don't know how
Techno Demons.
Techno Demon physiology works. So like he's giant and he's fully grown, and we're like, oh, okay. But I think it might be like a Shazam situation where like inside he's a 7-year-old boy.
So if Brother Block were to die next Tuesday, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Brother Block
It will
was to die,
never. It will. If he dies next Tuesday, I will never talk to you again.
okay, well that's fair. But
Okay.
the following week, when you would start talking to me again,
Uh huh.
if you
Uh
have,
huh.
do you have one Torg concept that you would love to bring to the table that you haven't been able to do yet?
Okay. So first, let me say that the tour concept that I always wanted to do is currently being done by Kit. I really wanted to do a weird science Nile Empire hero who was a math magician because his father was a professor at the university before the university transformed, which is kind of big in the books. I was going to say this earlier, but I'll quickly say the one of the greatest things about Torg is that it's so deep. Every cosm has its own source book. It's so many things, and if you're just a player, you don't need to read them all. But if you are a GM or you're into it, it's so amazingly deep that each of these places will give you something you want to do. So the thing that I'm not going to do, but I wanted to do, is a rebellious Jimi Hendrix style drummer character who never followed his father's ambitions, and when his father became when the transformation came, his father was appropriated by Mobius. This guy managed to get his weird science drumsticks, and it's repel and harmonious wave and the what does she always say? Confarctual difference. With like those powers, I definitely did want to do that. Um, I've had so many. I've gotten the opportunity to play so many characters, but if I was going to play one more character, I have always wanted to play unfrozen caveman lawyer. Just like Phil Hartman,
Yeah, I know
just back
exactly
in the
what you're
day,
talking
it's
about.
living land. So this and the way I've even schemed it out because people were like, "Law doesn't exist," and the social axiom is too wrong. You'll never figure it out. What he is Mark Man on a hill.
Ah, yeah.
So he was like a lawyer. He was like a really successful L.A. law, Ally McBeal, whatever lawyer, and the transformation comes, and he transforms into like a caveman, and he knows he's dumb, but he knows he used to not be dumb. And so he walks up to the top of the tallest hill to like be left alone, and then eventually people come to him for advice, like in the cartoons where a guy would walk up this tall hill and be like, "Oh, I made it all the way to the top of the hill. Tell me this," and then the guy like pushes him down the hill or whatever. So I'm combining, I'm Venn diagramming those two things, but I would like to be oh, I would like to be a Taoist, hermetic, unfrozen caveman lawyer.
Well, and the beauty of Torg is I'm pretty sure if anyone can make that build, that is totally you.
Literally, I could turn off the computer right now and make that build. But I know that there are people, there are great people that we work with, and people who take the time every week to watch our excellent show. And not that I need to be canon, but I will say this. One of the things about original Torg had a thing called Infiniverse. And if your team played a thing and whatever, you could send it in and it was collected on the early internet and journals were sent out. Now, there's the Iconic Discord, there's the Ulysses Discord, there's a Torganized Play Discord, there's Facebook. There's so many ways to talk about what you do, and a lot of these communities really own that interaction is like canon. It becomes canon. One of the reasons that I play for Iconic and that I love Iconic so much is that two techno demons attacked the USS Ronald Reagan while the horsemen were on board. In the chat, I said their names should be Snarf and Patches. And JM was like, "Yeah, their names are Snarf and Patches. This one looks like a Snarf. And this one's like looks like a little like an orange kitten." And and they haven't come back. I don't think they're dead, but
Oh,
they
they're
haven't
not
come back. But
dead.
I was like, "Oh, this is for real." And then so that was good. That was like, that was the appetizer to my
The
40
amuse
ounce
bouche.
steak that I have to eat all of. Was that they turned the corner and they got to the room, and if I remember correctly, one of the henchmen had Quinn Sebastian by the head while Lapis was on a video camera telling them like, "I knew this was going to happen. I knew you'd be in here. You shouldn't do this. You should join me, blah 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 blah." And it was like, "Oh my god, this is because Quinn Sebastian is canon. It's canon." And I mean, just hooked. And the thing is, I just don't think or I feel like the entire team is very good about accepting ideas,
Yeah.
but also because the history was there's an infiniverse.
Mm-hmm.
This happens in an infinite amount of possibilities. Your possibility is real. We're not denying your possibility. It can add up
Mm-hmm.
to affecting more. It can go farther. It can be the iconic verse, which we love to play in. You know, I get to have like 5 characters in the iconic verse, and if tomorrow they're like, "Hey, do you want to play Deadlands?" Yep, sure do. Um, but we can also do all of that in Torg.
Yeah. We had a discussion on Behind the Screen about answering your question. Actually, how would I fix Shadowrun? I would just take the
Yeah.
Isle source book and the Cyber Papacy source book and the soon-to-be-released Pan Pacifica source book
Nah,
and just run it in
nah,
Torg.
not cheating.
It
That's
is. Hey,
cheating.
it
Especially
is
that was
cheating.
also like that was like a strike down my alley. If the answer is use Torg, I'm on board.
Well, Ben,
The,
thanks
fa-
for
the
taking time to do this. This was awesome. And chat, thank you for showing up. Thank you for rolling with the punches. I'm hoping we will be back to our normal play next Tuesday. I'm sure we will be, but I appreciate you guys taking this
um,
interlude. Ben, I appreciate you chatting with me tonight.
can I buy you one of those gladiator masks, JM? You know the one that goes,
Yeah, just on the lower
and
face.
then yeah, just and then if it doesn't get better, like if you go Toxic Avenger,
Yeah,
you
I'll
can
just play as a
PRP.
Tharkold. I'll just leave the Gregor picture up while we're playing. Well, guys, thank you all for joining this Torgsday night. Know that we're going to be doing one of these with everyone in the Faites Five, and we have some fun things that are coming up this summer. We're going to be running Deadlands. We're going to be continuing Behind the Screen this Saturday. Evan and I are doing a new episode of Exploring Glorantha where we interview Chaosium President Rick Meintz again. And we're going to be back with the grand campaign at the end of the month. So, Ben, thank you. It is a joy to have you in this game. Torg chat, you guys are amazing. You are uh, why I continue to do this. That we're like years into this now, and we're still loving Torg, and it's still going strong. So it's always great to see all of you guys, and we will be back next Tuesday with more Faites Five. I'm JM, your GM. This is Ben, Brother Block, Dogathy, and a member of Bureau G. And we will be back next week with more Torg. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. We'll see you then. Have a good night.